Hello, everyone. My name is Conrad on behalf of Camera Stuff, and I hope you're doing swimmingly well tonight. Just gonna, as per usual, wait until more people join the live chat. So if you have joined already, salutations to you. So I'm just gonna give it about 2 minutes odd, just waiting for more people to join. In the meantime, if you are there, say hello in the chat, say hello in the comment section, tell me where you're from. So it's going to be a good live today. We're going to talk about the flash bracket in particular. It's going to let a bit more time soak. Just want more people to join before we get started. All right, so just a wee bit more time before we get started. Just waiting for more people to join. Okay, I'll start seeing the numbers piling in. It's good to see. So just on a side note, if you're commenting in one of our Facebook groups, your name doesn't show up. So just a heads up there. So Facebook user, I'm saying how's it to you back. I don't know who you are, but yeah, thanks for joining. All right, so people are joining, so let's get started, shall we? All right, so in this video series, we are going to unpackage the off-camera flash kit and its different components and building blocks in a manner of speaking. So in part one, I'm going to chat about the flash bracket or speedlight bracket, whatever you want to call it. So if you have any questions relating not to the flash bracket itself, I can try my very best to answer that concisely. But in due time, we are going to talk about light stands and speedlights and triggers and softboxes and whatnot. So for the time being, this being part one, we're going to talk about flash brackets. So if you have any questions relating to that, I would appreciate it. So just drop that in the comment section and I'll tackle them as we go along. All right, so here on screen, you see an example of a flash bracket. It is a very important part because it is the thing that connects your light stand to your flash and your flash to your softbox. So without it, you cannot complete an off-camera flash kit. So I'm going to talk about the different options that are available. In particular, I'm going to talk about the Godox S2 flash bracket. Sorry, rule one of doing a live, switch off your phone. So let's put my phone on silent. All right, there you go. Yep, so I'm going to talk about the different options that are available. As I said, in particular, I'm going to focus on the Godox S bracket. So one I have in my hand here and the one you see on screen. All right, so option number one would be the typical umbrella bracket. Now, I get different types available. They typically have a ball head joint or an elbow joint that you can use to angle the flash up and down, which is important if you want to control the direction of the light. And these are typically cheaper. They are compact and easy to travel with if you're mindful of such things. But ultimately, fewer accessories can be used with it. So unless you attach a tiny softbox or a barn door or a grid system directly on the flash head itself, you can only really use umbrellas with this. So for your larger softboxes and beauty dishes, you cannot use it with an umbrella bracket. So just to show you what that looks like and how to set one up, I'm just going to play this video. So that's an example of what I have of an umbrella bracket. So that you just clamp onto the light stand's stud mount. On top, you have a cold shoe mount. So that's where the flash goes. And you have an umbrella hole somewhere in the middle. That's where you slide the umbrella shaft through. All right, so very nice to own, but as I said, the amount of accessories that you can use with it are quite limited. So it's not as future-proof. The investment isn't as good as, let's say, a Bowens mount accessory bracket. So for that in particular, if you want something that is future-proof, that can be used with a variety of different accessories, I'm going to advise something known as a Bowens bracket. In particular, the Godox S2 bracket, that's definitely, in my opinion, the better one out there. So you may have heard of the term Bowens, right? What does Bowens mean? Bowens softbox, Bowens strobe, etc. So it's a type of mounting system. To use an analogy, right? Light bulbs. This is going to get in my face here. All right, so different light bulbs have different mounting types. You may have a screw-in type or a bayonet mount. So depending on the type of lights or the mount that you have in your house, you need to buy the correct light bulb for it, one of the correct type of mount. So strobes and softboxes, etc., they work in a very similar way. The type of mount is very specific to the strobe that you're using. So you get Bowens and Elochrom and Profoto and Comet and Broncolor, etc. So one of which would be the Bowens mount. So I'm just going to show you a picture of what that looks like. So this is a specific type of mount, right? And depending on what you're using, what type of strobe you have, what type of accessory bracket that you have, you need to buy the correct softboxes for it. Now, the Bowens one is a very good one because it is the most popular one out there. So Bowens, it must be said, is a brand in itself. They make strobes, make lighting accessories, etc. But over the years, many different brands have adopted the Bowens mount. So there are many accessories available, different softboxes, beauty dishes, barn door snoots in different sizes and shapes. So that's a very good idea. So if you want to buy something, you want to ensure that it is future-proof and that there are many accessories available for it. So anything Bowens, that's a good step going forward. Okay, so just to show you here, you can use different snoots and reflector dishes, beauty dishes. It must be said with this particular bracket, you can mount umbrellas with it as well. And of course, a variety of different softboxes. So you have options as far as crafting your light is concerned. So you can choose a big light, a small light, a soft light, a hard light, a flat light, or a contrasty light. You can even use a combination of everything that I mentioned. Okay, so it's going to show you a video of the Godox S2 Bowens mount in action. Okay, so it's pretty much universal as far as most light stands are concerned. It has a tilting bracket that you can use to tilt the flash up and down. So it has a little vice grip at the back that you just open, and that can accommodate many sizes of different speed lights. So you just have to turn it up and open the mouth in a manner of speaking, and just squeeze your flash head in. So up front, you have the Bowens mount. So the first example I'm going to use is a reflector dish. So you can see the three prongs, whatever you want to call it, to the Bowens mounting system that you just click into place. So it's very easy to mount your lighting accessories. If you want to release it, you just need to pull on that release latch at the back. So here's an example of a softbox, in particular the Godox QR series. That's the folding parabolic softboxes. And again, if you want to take the softbox off, you just pull back on that release latch and just unclip it. So on the side, you have the umbrella hole. And that's where you slide your umbrellas through. Right, so that just further untaps the usability and future-proofness of the Godox bracket. You could use many different types of accessories with it. Now, the thing about the S2 bracket, it can be used with the Godox range of round flashes. That's very important to say. So the V1 in particular, or the Godox 8200 with the H200R round head attached to it, all you need to do is remove some of those plastic bits to make the hole bigger, manner of speaking, and that can accommodate round head flashes. So for V1s and the 8200 with the H200R head attached, that's also compatible with this bracket. So plenty of compatibility, which is awesome. All right, so how do you mount these flashes? So you may have seen in the video, Just going to get my face back up. All right, so there's a little turn knob on top here. So that you can just turn up or turn down. And at the back of the bracket itself, that is just where you slide your speedlight head in, and then you close the grip again. So the Godox bracket in particular has these rubber padded mounts. So that just ensures a tight, non-slip grip. It just keeps your flash nice and steady within the bracket itself. And as you can see, it has a circular opening, so it can accommodate V1 flashes and the 8200 with the H200R round head attached to it. Now, because of its massive size, you can also mount your speedlight in vertically. Now, this makes sense for rectangular softboxes, especially strip boxes, because you want the light to spread throughout the entire shape of the softbox. So when you use the strip box in particular, you want to mount your speedlight like this. All right, so if you are out there still watching, please do drop your questions and I'll tackle them as we progress. Okay, some more examples of what can be done with this particular bracket. So you have the QR series softbox, but any softbox with a Bowens mount is compatible with this. And here you can see you can use umbrellas as well. So this one in particular is a Hilo 154 centimeter parabolic silver umbrella. Okay, so it is a bracket that can accommodate round-head flashes, as well as traditional rectangular shaped flash heads as well. There's just some pictures there for you to see. Okay, and as mentioned already, you can mount the speedlight in vertically. So that allows you to use, well, to better use, should I say, rectangular soft boxes, especially strip boxes, because you want the shape of the light to spread evenly throughout the shape of the softbox. Okay, I got a question here. So Ryan, any advice on choosing a Brolly box versus a translucent umbrella? All right, so the translucent umbrella, otherwise known as a shoot-through umbrella, that's a good option as far as the plan B is concerned. It's not going to provide you the best light, should I say, but it's nice to have. It's easy to travel with, it's easy to assemble and whatnot. The problem I have with a translucent umbrella is it's not closed. So you have a lot of light spillage. So some of the light will go forward where you're aiming it, obviously, but some of that light may reflect backwards and out through the sides as well. So you end up not utilizing all of your light. So you have a lot of light spilling all over the show. Now, if you're shooting in a studio or indoors, some of that light may bounce off the walls and it may mess up with your lighting setup. And sometimes some of that light may bounce into your lens and that may create lens flare. So that's the problem with a shoot-through umbrella. It's not a closed light modifier. So you have light spillage that goes all over the show. So when choosing a Brolly box, that has a cover at the back, depending on which type of Brolly box you're looking at. So either you're shooting into the softbox, umbrella softbox, and that light is reflected at your subject, or the Brolly box in particular has a closed back. So that just blocks the light from spilling all over the show. So between the two, definitely a Brolly box would provide you a better, more so efficient light, if I can call it that. But for Brolly box, the translucent umbrella, as I said, is a great plan B. So if the softbox breaks on a day, if you forget it, it's a nice option to have at hand. It's easy to travel with, easy to assemble. You can still take stunning photos with it, but just be mindful of all of that light spilling all over the show. Okay, another question. For a TT600, which softbox size would you recommend? Right, so most softboxes have a silver interior, so that is designed to spread the light evenly, or for the most part, evenly throughout the entire shape of the softbox. So you can use a large softbox with a TT600. That being said, if you use your flash on its most widest zoom settings, so that is 20 millimeters with the TT600, so you can go up to 120 centimeters, possibly 150 centimeters with a TT600. Yeah, so the bigger the softbox, the softer the light. So that's definitely a consideration. Specifically to your question, 120, I would say, is a good size for the TT600. But bigger softboxes aren't always the most practical, considering space and traveling space and the time it takes to assemble one. Okay, so thank you for the questions. Please drop them. All right, so I just want to get back to this Bowens mount. So you can see the little holes or gaps that slide in the 3 prongs to the balance system. And that just clicks into place quite easily. So just using a reflector dish as an example here, you can easily remove it, just as easily remove it by pulling back on the release latch. All right, so as mentioned, there are many options as far as flash brackets are concerned. You have the typical umbrella bracket that has the elbow joint or ball head joint. It's going to get my face back. Yeah, so those are typically cheaper, easy to travel with, doesn't take up a lot of space. So if you're mindful of such things, the umbrella bracket can serve a purpose, but your options as far as light modifiers are concerned are quite limited. So you can't typically use the bigger softboxes because it doesn't have a mount for it in the first place. So this is where something like the Godox S2 bracket comes in, makes a bit more sense. So it's, in regards to its future-proofness, yeah, it just untaps many different options. Different softboxes, different beauty dishes, different barn doors, different snoots, etc., and different sizes and shapes that you can use with that bracket. And of course, whatever strobe you're using or speedlight, that's also, well, has a wide compatibility range as well. So yeah, so plenty of options, which I think is the point of all of this, right? It's the point of this bracket. You can just use many different things with it. So in future, if you want to upgrade equipment, if you want to use different speed lights, etc., you can still use the very same bracket. Another question. Okay, cool stuff. Thank you. Also, with Brolly boxes, are they limited to the umbrella mount style with a rod? Yeah, so most brackets have an umbrella hole, if that is what you're referring to. So this Godox S2 one, now the umbrella hole is on the side here. So you can slide your Brolly boxes and different types of umbrellas. You can use it with this bracket as well, if I understood your question correctly. So also with Brolly boxes, are they limited to the umbrella mount style with the rod? No, so you can use Brolly boxes with these type of brackets as well. I mean, if you only choose to use umbrellas, then you probably don't need this bracket, but one day in the future, you may decide to buy a softbox or a beauty dish. So just straight off the bat, just buy this bracket. It is, in my personal opinion, a very good investment. Something I should have said as well, as opposed to the previous generation of Godox brackets, this is metal. So the base is metal. So as opposed to its other Bowens mount cousins, this is just a bit more durable. So for the more clumsier photographer, that's a good option. All right, so that's pretty much my presentation done. So if you guys watching out there in Facebook or YouTube, and if you have any questions to ask regarding the speedlight bracket, please drop them in the comment section. If you want to ask something not related to it, well, I'm here, you're here, so we can might as well tackle it. So as you get your questions ready, I'm just going to go through my slideshow presentation again, just to iterate some points. Going back to slide 1, slide 2. All right, so as mentioned, umbrella brackets. So these can be used with umbrellas exclusively, unless you can mount a tiny little softbox on the flash head itself, so that you can do with Velcro or double-sided tape attachments. These are cheaper, typically speaking, compact, lightweight, if you're mindful of such things. Yes, you may save a bit of money, but the Bowens mount is typically better because you have access to many more softboxes and beauty dishes and snoots and barn doors, etc. So as far as crafting your light is concerned, you have many different options there available for you. Okay, so why it's called the Bowens mount system, that refers to the mount, specific type of mount. So the Bowens is the most popular one out there because many brands have adopted this mount. So you can find a lot of accessories for it at different shops as well, camera stuff included, obviously. Yeah, so different sizes and shapes of accessories are available for this. Okay, some examples there: snoots, reflector dishes, beauty dishes, and the umbrella, obviously, and soft boxes. can be used with this particular bracket. So just examples again, softbox, umbrella. The difference between this S2 bracket and the previous generations of Bowens brackets from Godox is that you can use the round head flashes from Godox with it. And it must be said you can use the 8300 and the 8400 with it as well. Some pictures there. And the cool thing about it is that you can mount your speedlight horizontally or vertically, so depending on the shape of the softbox or light modifier that you're using. Okay, so I see some questions dropping in. All right, so Conrad, so I have this exact bracket, but I have a softbox that's not Godox. What softbox should I buy for my 8200? Okay, so the softbox that you have, if the speed ring accessory mount at the back can be removed, we can put a Godox one or a Bowens one in there. So your softbox can be compatible with the system. We just need to change the mounting at the back. So my recommendation to you would be to contact us with pictures of your softbox. Maybe we can make a plan for you. So maybe you don't need to buy another softbox. You can use what you have. So we just need to change the mount of the softbox itself. If that's not possible, what softbox should I buy for my 8200 Pro? A good option is the octagonal softbox. So 95 centimeter or 120 centimeter. Definitely a folding type softbox. So something that's easy to assemble on location. The traditional studio softboxes, you have to bolt like a tent, like you have to stick the rods in and you have to fold fabric around the rods. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes to just assemble these types of softboxes. So definitely a folding type softbox is definitely a better option. So we have those available. So you can look at the Godox SB/GUE range of softboxes. So those it's very similar to an umbrella type mechanism, but you have the inner diffuser, you have the outer diffuser, you have the grid with it as also as an option too. So that would be my recommendation. That's a good option. It's a nice all-rounder, multi-purpose softbox, the round octagonal folding softbox from Godox. Another question, will the Godox S2 trigger work with the Nikon SB910 speedlights? Yes, if you use a Godox receiver. So that's specifically called the X1R radio receiver. So that's directly compatible with the X2 or X Pro range of triggers. So if you use that receiver, we should have them available. It's about 900, 1,000 Rand for the receiver itself. So that's just, you put that underneath your Nikon SB910. So it's just an external device that you plug in underneath your hot shoe. That should connect the X2 with the SB910. And the SB910 being a TTL flash, you should have access to all of the modes as well. So manual, you can change the settings in manual mode. You can use TTL too. So that's all that you need basically. It's just that little X1R radio receiver. If you want pictures, links, etc., just I'll try to remember just to drop that in a reply to your comment. Okay. What difference does a beauty dish make compared to a softbox? Not related to the topic of the day, but I'm curious. Oh, it's a perfectly fine question. So a beauty dish is a little bit crisper. I know that may not be the best description of it, but in regards to the quality of light, it's not as soft as a softbox. So the light tends to be just a little bit harder, but it's softer than bare light. So it's a bit of an in-betweener quality of light. So it's not super soft and it's not super hard. So typically beauty dishes are used for like fashion photography, high key photography. So it does well to shape the face. So if you have a model with sharp cheekbones, very strong jawline, the beauty dish will just emphasize that and just create stunning portraits with it. So typically photographers get bored with super soft lighting and they want to play with a bit of harder light. So just picture like a typical midday evening. So the light is not as hard as that, just a little bit softer. But also with a beauty dish, you can mount a little diffuser on front if you just want to soften up a little bit. And a cool thing about a beauty dish is that most of them are compatible with a grid system or a honeycomb system. So the honeycomb, that just allows you to focus the amount of light. So all of that wide dispersion of light, you can just bring in and focus it exactly where you want it to go. So there's a bit more of a focused light, one without a lot of light spillage. That is when you use the honeycomb grid system. So basically the difference there between a beauty dish and a softbox would just be the quality of light. So not as soft as a softbox, but not as hard as bare light. That's a cool thing about a beauty dish is that most of them are made out of metal. So if they do drop, all you need to do is just do a little bit of panel beating. So softboxes, umbrellas, they tend to break when they fall, but a beauty dish, you just need to muscle back into shape. Most of my light modifiers are Bowens mount, and so are my Godox strobes, also using a similar bracket I purchased from you guys for my 8200. The umbrella rod seems a bit unnecessary at this stage, hence wondering about a possible Bowens mount Brolly box without using the umbrella rod type system. Okay, so now my recommendation would just go straight for a softbox. So the Brolly box, we don't have available with a Bowens mount system, but you can get a similar, if not better effect just by going with a softbox. So the Brolly box has just one diffusing panel, whereas a softbox, you can choose to use two diffuser panels. And theoretically speaking, is the dispersion, the breaking of light particles that creates the softening of light. So the more diffusion you have, the more light particles break and essentially create softer light. But you have the option to use two diffusers or one diffuser. With a Brolly box, you only have the one diffuser. So with the softbox, you just have more options to play with. Another question. I used a V1 flash. Want to use it on location, easy to set up and lightweighted. Sorry, so that's not a question, that's just a statement. So yes, the V1 flash is a remarkable flash. So that round head design just creates an evenly dispersed light as opposed to a rectangular head. Plus with that V1 mount, the circular head, you can mount dedicated accessories with it. And we have a kit known as the AKR1 that is magnetic. So the grids and barn doors and snoots, that just attaches directly onto the flash head using magnets. So you don't need to use Velcro or sticky tape or whatever nonsense with it. Plus you can stack these light modifiers as well. So if you want to use a grid and a barn door in combination, you can do that. So the V1 also just untaps many possibilities as far as the type of light you want to create, and the mount itself being magnetic, that is very convenient to use. So V1, definitely a high recommendation from me. Okay, I hope I didn't skip any questions. All right, please explain the different softboxes, please. Okay, so let's start off with folding versus non-folding. Folding softboxes are just easier to assemble as opposed to a non-folding softbox that requires a lot of time to assemble. So if you typically work on location, folding softbox is definitely high recommendation there. If you are in studio and your softboxes, you can just shove them in the corner. Their studio softboxes would make perfect sense. But even then, so I'm just going to get my face back up. Don't need to see the slide anymore. Folding softboxes are just easier to assemble and disassemble. So when not in use, you can just shove them back into the corner. Then the size of the softbox. So the bigger the softbox, the softer the light will be. So the difference between, let's say, 120 centimeter softbox and a 60 centimeter softbox is that the 120 will be softer, will provide a softer quality of light. That's one of the golden rules to lighting. The bigger the light is relative to your subject, the softer the light will be. The smaller your light is relative to your subject, the harder the light will be. So you can change the effective size of your softbox by using different light modifiers. So the bigger the softbox, the softer the light will be. Okay, so now the shape, right? So we have round, rectangular, and square. Okay, so it's a personal opinion of mine, but round is better because we have round faces. So if you're shooting humans, it makes sense to use a round softbox as well. Square softboxes, rectangular softboxes, that is when you want to constrain the lights just a little bit more. So if you want more control over the directionality and spread of the light. And typically with product photography, square is better because it creates nice reflections on the products. Okay, so for human faces, round, definitely a good option. Product photography, also if you want to control the light just a little bit better, definitely rectangular softboxes. A strip box is a very long and skinny softbox, so that just amplifies this control that I'm speaking about. So strip box just constrains the light into a slit of light, if you want to call it that. So the light is just projected in a very narrow channel, as opposed to spreading all over the show. Okay, some other considerations. Let me think. The mount is important. So Bowens, go for Bowens because many things are compatible with the Bowens mounting system. What else do you talk about with softboxes? So make sure they are double diffused. So most softboxes have an inner diffuser and an outer diffuser. Double diffusion creates softer light, but you can play around with that. Typically, these diffusers attach with Velcro. So if you want to pull one out, you can most certainly do that. A grid system, that just helps you focus the light. So a grid is something that you also attach using Velcro. You can choose to use it or not, but typically if you want a more focused light, bolder shadows, you can use the grid with your softbox. All right, so the depth of the softbox, that's an interesting one. All right, so you have shallow softboxes versus parabolic softboxes, or long softboxes for lack of a better term. So the shallow softboxes just tend to create a wider spread of light, whereas the parabolic shape, that just creates a more focused beam of light, more so of a quality of light that has a nice hotspot effect. So the light is very centered with the gradual fall off of light. So that does do well with human faces if you want to create a bit more of a focused light. So the parabolic shape is just more to focus the light and not to spread the light too wildly all over the show. So if you're illuminating groups, for example, the shallow softbox will do quite nicely because it does project the light over a wider spread. So you create this nice blanket of light. So the bigger the subject, basically, if you're doing groups or environmental shots, the shallow softboxes do tend to be a better option for it. Another question, the 8200 has two lights. That's true, the normal one and the bulb, like the one that you mount in separately. What's the differences between these two lights? Where to use the bulb, etc., etc. Again, not the topic of the day, no problem. If you have any other questions, please do ask so. So yes, it's true, the 8200 has interchangeable heads. A normal Fresnel head that looks similar to a normal speedlight, and a bare bulb one. So the differences between the two, well, bare bulb is a wider spread of light. So that can maximize the spread of the quality of light itself. So if you're doing environmental shots, definitely the bare bulb, whereas the Fresnel head is a bit more focused. Plus, with these Fresnel heads, you get some accessories that are directly compatible with this. So little soft boxes or barn doors, etc., that you attach directly onto here using whatever tape system or Velcro system. So again, it's just a question of the spread of light. So the bare bulb tends to create a nice blanket, even spread of light. So for environmental shots like real estate photography, for larger groups, you just use the bare bulb. For a bit more focused light, the Fresnel head would do quite nicely. So as a third option, you can also buy the round head for the 8200 as well. So this just creates a, not a softer light, but the edges of the light. This is a bit more, looks a bit more graceful, if I can call it that. So typically with a rectangular head, you can see the shape of this rectangular and it doesn't look that natural, whereas with a round head shape, the light just looks a wee bit more natural. So hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, so it's often a case with photography. There's no one solution that does everything. So depending on what you're doing, you have to choose the right option for it. So that also applies to the types of heads for the 8200. Okay, best trigger for the V1. So that happens to be our next topic, or next week's topic. I'm going to compare the X2 and the X Pro with one another. I'm also going to talk about other flash triggers. But for the V1, you want a Godox trigger. So either the X2 or the X Pro. Now the X2, that's the slightly cheaper one, about 1,400 Rand. So that communicates directly with the speedlight itself because the speedlight has the Godox receiver built into it. So you don't need to attach anything external onto it. Plus with the X2, you have access to all of the modes. So manual mode, TTL mode, you can adjust the flash output with it as well. And with the X Pro, that is similar to the X2, but it just has a bigger screen, right? So you have more of a wider view of all of the flashes and groups, etc., that you're using. So the usability is just a little bit better with the X Pro. Something I should have mentioned with the X2, it has an onboard hot shoe. So you can stack flash triggers or you can put a flash on top of that trigger as well. But if you're very interested in this topic, that's going to be next week's video. But hopefully that was a bit of a concise answer to it, but hopefully that does provide a good answer. So best trigger for V1, either X2 or X Pro, just depending if you want that hot shoe, that onboard hot shoe or not. As a person, I use the X Pro trigger because in studio I use many flashes, like sometimes up to 5 or 6 flashes. So having that big screen, seeing all the settings, it's just a lot easier with that big screen, as opposed to the X2, the screen is smaller, so I have to scroll down to see what the settings of my flashes are. Okay, just checking if I missed any questions. So thank you very much for the amount of questions. I do appreciate it. All right, so I'm going to give it about 5 minutes out, right? So if you in Facebook or YouTube land have any questions to ask, please drop them in the comment section. So I'm just going to play this video again. Sorry, wrong one. Yeah, just to show the Godox S2 bracket in use.
my dance make it hurt.
Okay, so a couple more questions dropped. All right, so I want to purchase a C-stand. So if I buy it, will I need to buy the bracket as well, or does it come with its own bracket? And what's the best softbox to buy together with the C-stand for studio photography? Okay, so this is, sorry, the C-stand does not come with its own bracket. So it's depending on what softboxes you want to use, you need the bracket for it. So in short, no, it does not include the bracket. So the C-stand, what's the best softbox to buy? All right, so that depends on quite a few factors and variables. So best softbox depends on the softness or the hardness of light you want to create. So chances are you're going to need a couple of different things depending on the type of light, the type of quality of light you want to create. So if you want super duper soft lighting, a big round softbox like a 120 or 150 centimeter softbox would do the trick quite nicely. If you want a slightly harder light, then a smaller softbox or a beauty dish may do the trick right there. So just to reiterate, the bigger the light, the softer the light, the smaller the light, the harder the light. So there's not a one option that's going to do all of these tricks. So you're going to need to buy separate things for specific purposes. As a good all-rounder, definitely the 120 centimeter folding softbox from Godox. So that would be the SBGEU. That's about 1,500 Rand just for the softbox. But also a good option would be one of these softboxes that I showed in these video clips. That would be the QR series folding parabolic softboxes from Godox. Okay, so unfortunately, it's not a straightforward answer. What is the best softbox to buy? It all depends on the quality of light that you want to create. But a good all-rounder would be a fairly large octabox. Okay, suggestions for light modifiers for indoor event photography. Okay, so assuming you're talking about the reception. So I've seen people use a little plastic dome on top of a fairly powerful strobe, be it an 8200. The point of this dome, it creates a big dispersion of light. We like to call it the nuclear bomb of light. So light just goes everywhere, right? And it's also convenient if the reception has white walls and white ceilings. So that just helps to bounce the light all over the show. So you have a nice even spread of light throughout the entire reception. So you don't want anything that's too focused. You want something that creates this big bomb of light. So it's either one of those plastic domes or one of these silicone domes that you attach on the flash head. So we have that. That's available in the AKR1 kit. But in future, we are going to stock the new silicone mounts that you use with, well, it's from Godox, but you can use it with your Godox strobes as well. So specifically there for indoor photography, if you are talking about receptions and whatnot, then a thing that can create a big dispersion of light. Typically, you get that with a dome type light modifier. Can the S2 be mounted with on a microphone stand, or does it need its own stand? It depends. Certain microphone stands have their own little connector. The stud is quite thin, so the S2 may wobble on that, but it all depends, right? So you get different types of microphone stands. So my recommendation to you would be to send us a picture so we can just make double sure. If it has a little screw-in mount, then you can attach a little spigot on top. So that will make the S2 compatible with a microphone stand as well. So it depends. So what you have, to send us a picture of that, and we can try our very best to help you out. So it's 50-50. It depends on what you currently have. All right, so I think that's all the questions done and dusted. So we're close to 45 minutes in. So this was a very good live. So again, thank you for all your questions. Thank you for your participation. I appreciate it very, very much. So I think that's it from my side. So thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for future videos. As I said, the next one's going to be about flash triggers. So to the person who asked about the best trigger for the V1, I'm going to talk about that quite extensively, specifically about the Godox X2 and the Godox X Pro, but I'm going to talk about the wide range of triggers that are available out there. How to set it up, what all the different terminologies stand for, etc. So if you're curious about flash triggers, next week sometime, it may be a Thursday or a Wednesday again, we will advertise it well ahead of time. So that's me, Conrad, on behalf of Camera Stuff. Thank you for joining. Stay tuned for the next video. Thank you so much.